Stevens with the pattern overview for SnoCountry.com, and this is brought to you by the folks at UVEX Sports. They make great goggles and great helmets to protect that coconut of yours. Let's take a look at the headlines. A couple of breakthroughs, perhaps, in the Western Ridge problem that we've had for 4 or 5 weeks now. Is the ridge truly ready to relent? That's the question that's on the mind of skiers and riders. From the Continental Divide all the way to the Sierra and the Cascades, there is some limited snowfall that's occurred in the past couple of days and is ongoing today, Wednesday, as I put this together. If we take a closer look, you can see there are winter storm warnings out here in the Tetons, stretching down south of Jackson Hole, and there's been some snow in the northern Rockies, almost down to Interstate 70. Steamboats picked up a handful of inches of snow, and that softened things up for them. But elsewhere, it's mostly rain along the coast. There are problems with fog, and unfortunately, the ridge is still doing its dirty work. If we take a look at the jet stream, you can see that western ridge is still there in force. We have a little shortwave energy coming down the front of the ridge, and that's what's produced the snow in the Tetons. And my mole up there at Jackson Hole tells me it's the best powder skiing of the year right now, meaning Wednesday, but the 2 feet or so that they've picked up the last couple of days he described as a little bit wet, and that's not surprising because the snow levels have been an issue and they will continue to be an issue for the foreseeable future. If we take a look at the visible satellite picture from today, from the February 4th, a couple of things. First of all, the ridge is promoting a lot of clearing and a lot of clear skies here over the central and southern ranges, but there's a ton of moisture offshore. And one thing that's lacking when I look at this satellite picture, right there, those cold air cumulus clouds, there's not a lot of cold air involved in this very intense system many hundreds of miles off the Oregon coast. But what you also will notice is this fetch all the way down to the same latitude as the Hawaiian Islands. This is tropical moisture that's feeding into this system, and that's what's causing those high snow levels. And if we take a look at the broader picture, again, if you follow these lines, you can see that the air is coming basically from just north of the Hawaiian Islands toward the directions of Northern California and Oregon and up into Washington. And although there is going to be some snow, I think, in the Sierra and northward into the Cascades late this week, we're basically talking about snow levels up around 7,000 or 8,000 feet in the Cascades, where anywhere from 1 to 2 feet of snow above 8,000 feet could accumulate. But in anything lower than that, there's going to be rain, unfortunately. And up in the northwest, those snow levels will be a touch lower, between 6,000 and 7,000 feet. But believe you me, if you want anything resembling dry snow from this system that's coming in Friday and Saturday, you got to get to the highest trails on the terrain. That's for darn sure. And some of that energy is going to crest the ridge and come down the front end again and bring some light to moderate snow into the Tetons and the extreme northern Rockies late in the weekend. But I'm getting ahead of myself. There's the Friday surface map again, showing that long fetch of moisture into the coastal ranges. And again, with a tropical connection, that's really what is causing these high snow levels. And you can see that a little sliver of snow along the crest of the Sierra is printed out on Friday. And the far northern Rockies up toward Big Sky, they should make out all right because of the advantage they have in their elevation. But this is not a cold system by any stretch of the imagination. We go ahead to Monday, and you can notice that the ridge has nudged further inland, and that's allowing another system to make inroads into the northwest once again with high snow levels. And then by Tuesday, notice the snow is breaking out in parts of Idaho, down in the southern or the northern Rockies around Big Sky, and then down to the Wasatch, including the Tetons, and a light to moderate snowfall early next week is a pretty good bet there, and it should make it down to the resorts north of I-70 in Colorado. Now, in terms of the snowfall over the next 7 days, this is the GFS, a U.S. model, and I think it has the idea about where the snow is going to fall, with more of a chance here on the eastern side of the ridge. But I think it's a little rambunctious with the amounts. You can notice it prints out a lot of snow here in the Sierra. But once again, keep in mind those very high snow levels. The Canadian model, I think, has it better handled in terms of the extent and the amounts of snow that you can reasonably expect over the course of the next week. Now, the next system, here it is on Monday, coming ashore in the northwest. This is a Canadian ensembles, and it's going to put a dent in the ridge, and I think it's going to bring some high elevation snow into the northwest and northern Rockies. And then we go ahead to Tuesday. Notice it has crested the ridge and weakened because of the battle with the ridge, but it's headed southeastward through the northern Rockies, maybe down to the Wasatch and the central Rockies as well. And then it will deepen, perhaps bringing some snow to the southern Rockies 7 days from now before it heads eastward to join forces with the dominant trough that's over eastern Canada. Meanwhile, the ridge pops back up, but then at 10 days, notice the ridge is flattened out. So that suggests to me that we might be able to make some inroads into that ridge with another system about 10 days from now, about the 15th, somewhere around Valentine's Day, let's call it. But then 15 days down the road, the Canadian ensembles rebuilds the ridge in the west, and it also digs the ridge, the trough, over the eastern half of the country. One point of optimism, though, as we look down the road, we'll have some occasional action the next 10 days to 2 weeks off the Pacific, but overall the ridge is going to hold strong through the middle of the month, and those high snow levels will be an issue. But there is optimism for mid-month and beyond that the southern branch of the jet, invigorated by the El Nino, will be able to break through. And typically in winters like this, where you have a relatively dry start to the winter and you have a weak to moderate El Nino in place, later in February, the action gets going in the west because of that breakthrough of the southern branch, and I expect later in February, March into April to be pretty darn good for snow. You're just going to have to be patient to let that pattern evolve over the course of the next 7 weeks out west. Once more, this segment has been sponsored by the folks at UVEX Sports. Enjoy your sliding, be patient, look to a brighter future as we get later into February, and do take care on the slopes. Take care.